What's up, guys? It's Andrew here with 765 Disc Review, and today we have the Prodigy Discs A3. So before I get started, I want to send out a big thank you to Disc Store. As a member of Team Disc Store, I actually received this disc in my allotment this past spring. So I've been trying it out here for quite a bit, and finally kind of feel like I've got a good enough handle on it to kind of pass along the information that I found onto you guys. So starting off, let's talk about how it feels. So this is the Prodigy 400G plastic. It's very, very flat. You'll notice it features a bead. It's somewhat, it's a little bit more firm than the 400 plastic there, but I would say it's a little bit more tacky as well. So kind of a give and take there. If you like the firmer plastics, I definitely think that 400G is a good place to go for you. But if you're somebody that likes the gummier, softer type of plastic, the 400 is great. It's one of my favorites for sure. So this is actually one of the discs here I would love to try in 400 plastic because I'm a guy that prefers discs that are a little bit softer and easier for me to grip. But nonetheless, in the feel in the hand, if you have thrown the Innovator, that is probably, to me, it almost feels identical. And I think if you look at the wing shape as well, it's very close to that as well. So it's got the bead, but it's still pretty comfortable in the hand. Usually as a forehand thrower, a bead is not something that I love to hear because I feel like for me, sometimes it feels like it gets caught kind of on your finger. But this was not a problem at all with the A3. I really didn't seem to notice it very much, which was pretty awesome. So it's also very thin. For the flight numbers there, which I want to say are 4303 if I remember correctly, I thought that it maybe was a little bit faster and kind of felt in the hand a little bit faster than a 4-speed disc. So when I think about 4-speed discs, I usually tend to think about kind of like a zone or a harp, and it's almost kind of like a putter in the hand. So this to me definitely feels more like a mid-range there. I would probably put it more out of 5-speed, and I think the distance I was getting out of it would probably agree with that as well. So it's a little bit more of a mid-rangey feel to it, but not a bad thing because, like I said, when you're a forehand player, the thinner the disc, oftentimes the cleaner and easier you're going to get a release off of. So by no means is that a bad thing at all. So that's how the disc feels overall. Pretty good. Like I said, 400G, a little bit more firm and a little bit tackier than the 400 plastic. So let's go into the good and the bad and all of that stuff here and kind of where it might fit for you. So as far as the good stuff goes, this disc here I thought would be a great kind of approach disc if you're dealing with a little bit of wind. So oftentimes I found myself in tournaments, I just have a zone and then I've got a deflector as far as my kind of mid-range approach discs go. And sometimes I felt like, there's a headwind, the zone isn't going to be stable enough to get there, or it's not going to be long enough going into that headwind. And then oftentimes I've kind of felt like the deflector was going to be a lot more overstability than I really needed. I feel like the A3 is kind of the perfect mix of the two. So it's got some glide to it, which kind of leads me to believe that I can push it out a little bit further than my zone, but it also has a good amount of bite to it, which I think would help handle the wind a little bit better than a zone. So one of the first things I'm going to say is if you're a mold minimalist, I think this is a great disc to have because for me it seemed to be somewhere right in between my zone and deflector. So it wasn't crazy unworkably overstable like my deflector is, but I think it handled the wind a little better and was a little bit longer than my zone. So definitely good on that aspect. I love the thin profile of it. Like I had mentioned earlier, I think that that's something as a forehand thrower that is really comfortable for me and leads to getting a lot of clean releases here. And then, like I said too, I thought the glide was really good on it. It's got this weird overstability where even with it having more glide in my experience than a lot of other discs in that kind of category, I thought it handled the wind better and had a little bit more bite with the fade at the end. So great disc there. Personally, for me, I think I would put the flight numbers at a 5404. So that's just my personal opinion of what I experienced with it there, but definitely a nice, overstable, and workable approach disc for sure that I definitely think has a good use for it. As far as the bad goes, I'm kind of having trouble with whether or not I want to bag it just because I feel like the specific circumstance where you know, I've got my zone and I think, hey, it's too slow or maybe not overstable enough for the wind, and I've got my deflector, which I'm like, maybe that's too overstable for the situation I need. The only drawback I can think of it for me personally is it seems pretty close. It's just a little bit less stable than my deflector, but a little bit more stable than my zone. So in that aspect there, it seems to maybe overlap a touch, but that's just my own personal deal. As far as kind of issues that I found, I don't think that there's anything in general that I would mention for the average player that wasn't specific to my own experience. So definitely a pretty great disc overall here. Like I said, I think this would be great for a mold minimalist there if you're kind of trying to knock out that utility drive, or that utility mid-range spot, sorry, with your everyday run-of-the-mill approach disc. I feel like it's right in between there. So definitely a good one to try out if you get a chance there. I definitely think you would find it worthwhile. So thanks for watching, guys. Appreciate it. Take care.